When I first became interested in HF ham radio, high frequency ham radio, right, where your RF is refracting off of the atmosphere for much longer distance contacts than VHF, UHF, I did what a lot of people did, which is go build a dipole monoband antenna, right? Two wires, one goes to the shield of the coax and one goes to the pin of the coax, and you've got a center connector or maybe a one-to-one balun or whatever. And, you know, I struggled with it. You had to adjust the ends, go check your radio, adjust the ends, go check your radio using the SWR meter that a lot of radios have. It was only later, after I built a few antennas, that I picked up my first antenna analyzer. And it was this one. It's the RigExpert 170 that I bought, I believe, either from HRO or I might have bought it online. This antenna analyzer gets all the HF bands and goes up to 2 meters, so you can do some VHF antenna work with it. This is a fine analyzer. It's a little big, but it's smaller than a lot of other analyzers that were around at that time. And this thing has served me really well. It's still a consistent analyzer. It does exactly what I want it to do, and it has a USB port so I can connect to my computer. But wanting to go in the field or dealing with field day or prolonged weekends where I'm going to be activating, I wanted something more portable, and I went with something that many of you are familiar with, a nano VNA. It's more portable, yes, but sometimes complicated, confusing, and difficult to operate in the field. So I've decided I'm switching over to a new analyzer, and I've picked up the RigExpert Stick Pro. Let's talk about it. The RigExpert Stick Pro, much like my AA170, covers the HF bands and 2 meters, but this tops out at 600 megahertz, so taking you well beyond the UHF range as well. So for most of the radio that I play, which is HF, VHF, and UHF, this covers all the bands that I want. Now, I reviewed the previous iteration of the RigExpert Stick, which is all blue and it uses an e-ink display. Similar design, it runs off of an 18650 battery and is USB-C chargeable. So you can recharge this out in the field or just off of your car charger if you're using USB-C or whatnot. The upgrades, though, is that this has a higher frequency that it tops out at for analyzing. It comes with a N-type connector on the end, so you can use N connections for your higher frequency antennas for VHF, UHF, and it comes with an N connector adapter to go to SO239 for your HF antennas and everything else that's probably more common for what a lot of you are doing. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, the screen's super tiny, Josh. I did watch your stick review. Why did you want to go with this instead of just taking the 170 or even the Nano VNA, which has a bigger screen? Well, this is also Bluetooth, and there are applications that you can use on your Android phone or your iPhone or your tablets or whatever to be able to connect to this and use those much bigger screens, which you might already have in the field, and everybody definitely has their phone on them, right, at all times. And then you get a much bigger screen and much more control capability. For those that may be new with antenna analyzers, this will show you your SWR number for whatever frequency you're on, or a spread of frequencies as you look at a frequency space. It will also do phase angle and magnitude for looking at how the antenna is actually performing against reactance and resistance, and then it also includes line loss checking, because you can use this to determine what your line loss is in the coax you're using. I can just keep talking about it, or I can show you on the desktop how this works, and you likely need to see that anyway. So let's go over and I'll show you how this works. All right, to kick things off here, I just have the RigExpert sitting next to a 705 and an X5105, so you get kind of a size idea of, you know, how this would look if it was a part of your kit. In the box, you will get a lanyard, obviously the analyzer. You get your Type N connector to SO239. You get a USB-C cable to USB-A for charging or connecting to a device. Underneath here, you get a bit of instructions on how to use it out of the box. Pretty straightforward. And we're going to cover through some of that right now. All right, we're going to do a test here. Just pop off your rubber cap, put your N-type adapter on, and let's do a test on my HF antenna that I have connected at the moment. There's a couple ways to go about this. You can do a single band, single frequency test, a multi-test, which is like a fast scan for all kind of resonant spots of the antenna. There is a ham selector and then a free selector, and we'll walk through all these. Okay, this first antenna is my step IR, which is really only resonant on one band right now, at least from the HF standpoint. So let's do a multi-check. Click plus. There is a vibration / force feedback that you feel it when it clicks. Okay, so it's saying my lowest spot right now is 1.5 SWR at 14.170. Looks like we see a little bit of a plot there. Boom, there you go. And that's it pulled out a little bit, 14.175. Lowest is 145. So you get a quick plot on what it looks like, where your dip is at. You can see it slid over a little bit right there. If you want to adjust that plot, you just use the left and right arrow. Changes your frequency. You can see actually we've got a dip. It's outside the ham band right there. So let's see if we can zoom in on that a little bit. Yeah, a little more pronounced right over here. What's that? Well, let's go find out. Looks like I need to adjust my step IR. Blimey! That's the real dip is 1.3, but it's outside. So that's something I can adjust easily with the step IR. This is kind of more of a demonstration that it shows you where the lowest dip is for the amateur range, but as you dive into this a little bit by adjusting the bandwidth with the plus and minus, and then where your analyzer point is by going left or right, you can get in a little bit closer. Okay, let's back out of this. So go back to the main, go to single, and there you go. At 14.735, we're at 1.2 SWR. Interesting. Well, if I hold down the green button, I can now go to set frequency. And from here, I can slide over, bring this down to, there we go. Bring it down to the single sideband space. And then we're back up. Okay, interesting. So I can adjust the frequency as I go by plus and minus. And I can get different information as I go through the pages here, the 5 pages that are on this screen with the left and right controls. So you get your R and X, your frequency, and what your resistance is in ohms. Your LC value. Okay, and then you just get a display like that. So let's click on that. It's now stopped. So you can click play and it'll actively be checking. So if you wanted to go make a physical adjustment on your screen, you can have this on. It's checking and polling if you needed to go make a physical adjustment, or if you just wanted to snapshot it, you can click that and it will stop the testing. All right, I've switched my antenna over to a multi-band antenna, and I'm going to click on the ham chart. So that's the left arrow right there. All right, so here's 17 meters. 1.5, you can see the little brownish yellow portions here are outside the band. The black strip is the ham band, and it's giving us a reading that, it's not that great, 2.2, 17.85. So let's go down. Here's 20 meters. 2.3 at 13.85, so a little lower than the band is the lowest. This antenna is actually an antenna you run with a tuner most of the time, but this will still give you a reading regardless. Here we'll go up to 30. 2.8 at 10 megahertz. 2.8 at 6.9. 3 at 5.3 megahertz. And 80 meters is way out of the ballpark. There you go, 1.65 on 12. For you CB guys, this does CB 11 meters at 28. That's lowest. And actually, it's not bad at all here on 10 meters with a low at 1.13, which is on the very low side of the band. So maybe if you're doing FT8 or something like that. And last but not least, 6 meters at about 1.92. So with free, if you just click here, you'll get a big view of all the different dips on the antenna as you go along. If you hold down the button, the play button, that's where you can set the center frequency, or you can save and load if you've saved a previous test that you like to do. In this case, we can go back and we can just plot around by adjusting with the arrow key. And if we want to change the view, we can push down, and there we go. To tighten things up a little bit, you can see we're decreasing the bandwidth of this view. And this is freeform, so it's well outside the ham bands, but you can adjust this to wherever you want. So again, yeah, if we go in here and we set a frequency, I don't like that. That's not where I want to be. I want to be in 20 meters. There you go. Okay, so we can increase this now, open the bandwidth up by just going up to 10, and there you go. On the main screen, if you hold down the play button, which is also a hamburger menu for those of you that like UX and stuff, hold that down, and that brings you into the settings screen, so you can adjust user settings, do cable loss frequency, cable impedance versus frequency chart, cable length and velocity factor, your stub t-test, return loss, RNX chart, time to main, SWR RL meter crossbound, your free SWR range, SWR ham, SWR chart at amateur bands. Let's go into this for a second. And then you can go pull that up exactly for the ham bands. We can switch through. Oh, 2 meters. There we go. We'll test that out with a 2 meter in a second. So let me go back to that setting. Single parameter at single frequency, parameters at single frequency, multi-auto scan bands for resonance. So this is just like a blown up or a item by item view of what this is capable of. So if we go to, let's go back to single. That's where you get the previous view from the single chart. There's a couple of ways to navigate how you want to use this. Under adjust Bluetooth or adjust settings, that's where you get things like Bluetooth, language is English, palette is dark lime, dark yellow, light blue, light red, light orange. Oh, there's quite a lot of options here. Why is it saying 3? Oh, the setting is that, I see. Dark lime is green, dark yellow is almost, I can tell a difference, but not much. So let's do light orange. We'll save that. Ooh, look at that. That's vibrant. That makes it a little bit easier to see. All right, continuing on with the settings, you've got metric, if you want to change that to imperial. You got a timeout timer for battery savings. ITU region is the Americas for me. Band search, you can do deep, you can do normal. Calibration is if you need to recalibrate this. I think you require an open, short, and load if you're going to do a calibration. 50 ohms is what we set this to. Velocity factor, if you're doing that. Factory reset, we're not doing that. We're not going to do any hold because we have no slot set. And there you go. So that's the settings on that side. But if you're like me, you may want to connect your phone. So let's go and bring up Ant Scope. It'll ask you if you want to do Bluetooth. You say yes, click connect. And now we are connected. You can see that there. So we're going to go start for the SWR chart. Collecting 100 points of data, and boom, there you go. So now you can go over here, find where the next lowest, where's that low region? Outside the ham bands, it looks like. With our plot here, we can go to settings. We can change the start frequency and end frequency. So if we wanted it to be, let's pull it in and around 20 meters, make it easy for us. We'll go done, start. So now it's still going to do 100 points, but it's going to be 100 points just within this space in and around 13 megahertz through 17 megahertz. So we can go up and down here and we can look at it. We can pull up a Smith chart if we want to. So for those of you that like this capability on the Nano VNA, you can still do this with a phone. You can see everything you need there, and you can adjust it as well. You can set your center frequency, your span, or you can do start and end, depending on how you like to do it. If you want some fast values, hamburger menu again, go to all parameters, and you can click the little blue box or blue circle there, and let's take it down to 40. We'll go to the single sideband, and there you get your SWR, your Z, your RL, and your phase angle. If you click start, go ahead. So now it's going to be taking active polling of this as we change. We can change this up to, let's go back up to 14,250, and boom, you see an instant update on the values there. All right, we're going to do a TDR review or TDR chart. This is time domain reflectometer. This is going to show if there's any issues in my feed line. It's going to take 512 points of information, and we'll get a chart that is, if it shows like big spikes along the different frequency, this frequency range we're testing, then that could note that I have some problem with my feed line. And okay, so far looks okay. This is all based off of 0, so I think that we're probably all right. If we saw big spikes here, then we may have an issue with our feed line. Okay, from the main screen again, we'll go to the Smith chart. We'll hit our settings. I've got it at 14,100 kilohertz and ends at 14,350 kilohertz. There we go. And there's our information. Bit outside the 50 ohms resistance that we would want. Looks like 53 for the R value, negative 47 for X. Let's do the same thing, but we'll swap out to my VHF UHF antenna. And we'll change the settings on our chart. All right, so starting from our main screen, I'm doing a SWR check on my 2-meter antenna outside dual band, actually 70 centimeter too. Let's pull up the Smith chart for that. So now you got to run, it's a center point is at 145,500 kilohertz, shows about an SWR of 1.2. If you want to change that, so if we wanted to open or close this frequency space, we would change our start point and our end point. In this case, if I wanted to just get it real dialed in, I could go to 145,000 kilohertz. Now, I've only adjusted it here. I got to click on span and it'll drop. You see it went to 1,000, and then we'll do the 100 data points. We'll start. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so 1.6, and we've got 46 ohms of resistance. If I wanted to then flip this over and see what I look like at 445,000, and let's do 447,000. This is kind of a big plot. Click on that. You're gonna have to play around with this a little bit to get used to it. Okay, so it's a 1-to-1 SWR when we're at 446.050 kilohertz. That's the center frequency. So in and around the simplex spot, we've got a pretty good SWR. Note that this wants to jump around and drop a 0 on your starting kilohertz. So just make sure you go in and you click all these boxes. You kind of have to go around and click everything until it's like, okay, I'm happy. So if I wanted to open this up to 7,000, go around, click everything a couple of times, and then let's do that again. And there we go. Yeah, okay. So this antenna is actually pretty good dual band VHF UHF antenna. 1.1 SWR at 446,500 kilohertz as its center frequency. And this line, that blue line there, and you see that blue line? Now you can. That blue line is that frequency range that we're doing the test under. So the only thing I'm not seeing that this does, which would be a little handy if it was here, was a phase angle display, an actual plot, which is only available on this screen, it looks like. You've got an SWR meter, Smith chart, and then you've got your parameters and then your TDR chart that you can get. This is helpful. You can get what you kind of need depending on that. So if we go in here and we say 446 kilohertz, 446,000. Okay, there you go. So SWR at 446 has a R of 45.4 and an X of 4.3. So we could get the same plot. We just aren't going to see it visually. We're just seeing the values at that exact moment when you're doing this plot at that frequency. Or you just might want to pull up the Smith chart here and learn this a little bit better so you can diagnose what's going on with your antenna. If you do want to see that R and X chart, just go back here on the main screen, hold down the play button, go to slide through the arrows here, go down to return loss. After that, R and X, hit play, and bango, there you go. That's what you're looking for. So that's a typical R and X view. If you're familiar with the MFJ, you can use this as a close proximity to that. Actually, you can get a bit more detailed with this than you can with that MFJ antenna analyzer. But keep in mind that even though you are getting an R and X display or graph here, because your feed line is a part of the mix, and if you haven't calibrated it out, thanks Sterling for some guidance in that area, you're likely going to get odd results. So if you're using this to really diagnose an antenna and really get in there, I'll post a link in the description for a bit of a how-to on Smith charts and understanding them better. It's likely something that will help you in the long run, but consider it is a heady topic to wrap your head around, so just keep that in mind. All right, so those are my thoughts and a little demonstration of the RigExpert Stick Pro. Bigger than a Nano VNA, but many more times more useful than a Nano VNA, and more resistant to being actually outdoors and something you might use when you're in the field. It is a little heavier and obviously bigger than the Nano VNA, but for me, in most situations where I'm going to be set up for a while, maybe over a weekend or a full day of operations where there may be more than one antenna and more than people, more than one person operating, then this would be what I would bring with me in the field. Using the multi button here makes it really, really fast to just see where you're at and determine if you need to do a deeper dive into the antenna. In the cases that you're in the field, though, you're probably not going to do much of that. But if you're at home and you want to test your antenna out, then you can deep dive it as you need to or connect to your phone. At the time of recording, this goes for anywhere between $400 and it's on sale right now at $389 at HRO. So if you're interested, it's available at many different retailers. Thanks to RigExpert for sending me this to take a look at. This is now my primary analyzer, so it's going to be the one that I use more often than not because it's really easy to use. Hopefully I demonstrated that and it's something you can see. But anyway, tell me your thoughts on the RigExpert Stick, or Stick Pro in this case, or the Stick. Tell me what your thoughts are on that in the comments below. If you have any more questions, let me know. I'll try and answer them best I can. Anyway, thanks for watching so much. If you found this helpful, give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you have not already. I do live stream every Saturday and every other Wednesday for Ham Nation. I'm Josh, KI6NAZ. You've been watching the Hammer to Crash Course, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.